So he did know about language. But he could never have come up with this Quran because there are many things about it that we haven't even talked about yet that make it too unique for anybody at his time to have come up with it. But how it comes to him, as I already said, it comes from the angel Gabriel, and then he memorized this, but he never wrote it down. He himself never wrote anything down because he didn't know how to read and write. However, you might like to know this. Some of his companions did write it down, and they used to write it on the bones of animals. They used to write it on papyrus. They wrote it on animal skins and so on. And these were preserved and kept over the many years.
How can then we be sure that we have the original Quran today?
Well, one of the things that I would invite anybody to consider is that the Quran itself offers that Allah will preserve it until the last day. Allah is saying in the Quran, He's going to preserve the Quran. You don't have to be concerned. He's going to take care of it. He says in the Quran, He says it's His speech. And He says that He's preserving it. Now, the argument would be that, well, this is circular logic. You're taking from the book that's talking about the book. And that's true. Except that the fact is, it still exists today as it existed then. And it's the only book on earth that has remained as is and has so many people reciting it, never had any changes, and it has such uniqueness about it that there is no other book like it.
If you say that the Bible was also from God,
yeah,
would He not preserve or protect that book also?
Well, as a matter of fact, again, it is Allah who did protect the Bible. He protected it at the time of Bani Israel, the sons of Israel. He protected the work that came with Jesus to a point. But then, as with all things, Allah has His will, and He allows things to happen according to what He wants. People have made changes, and if anybody really thinks about it, the Bible today in English obviously is not God's actual speech to Moses. He didn't speak English. There was no English language before the year 1066 AD, because that's when the Normans invaded the Saxons. That's when it all started. But to go back to the older manuscripts of the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, you cannot find one unique, this is it, we can always say this is the full and complete Bible like that. No, you can't. But what we can find are over 5,500 different manuscripts that are very, very similar in many ways. So we know the Bible it essentially said this or essentially said that, and there can't be any doubt about it. What's unique is that the Quran comes along and clarifies many of the things that maybe you couldn't figure out about the Bible. You could go back and look, and then when you stop and think about it, if there's a contradiction between the two of them, which one do you think would be wrong? Because the Quran has one version only, and is exactly the same today as it was then, and it doesn't argue with itself. Then some of the manuscripts of the Bible argue with other manuscripts of the Bible. One says one number, another one says a different number. Another one says creation came about in one certain way. Then another one said, no, it's like this. In some versions, you've got Jesus as Son of God. Then you've got also manuscripts telling you that God can't be a son. And He doesn't have any sons, and He's not a man, and so and so. So in order to really understand it, it's highly recommended, even for Christians, to look into the Quran. And if you can learn the Arabic language, that's a bonus, because it'll be a lot easier for you.
Well, on that note, we'd like to know, is it required for every Muslim to read the book in Arabic, to read the Quran in Arabic, or to memorize the Quran?
If a person has the ability, I think they should take that time to do it. But it's not, if you want to say, is this a requirement, you have to do it. No, it's not. You don't have to do it. But it's one of those things where you'd be really smart to do it. You don't have to drive a car in the United States. You don't have to. But you're smart to learn. There are a lot of people that don't drive cars. And they ride along with others, and they're pretty much at the mercy of the other driver, where he wants to go and what he wants to do. But for the most part, I recommend to anybody, if you're physically able to, mentally able to, To learn to drive a car is a smart thing. And I'm going to say the same thing to Muslims. You're smart to learn the Quran in the Arabic language because that's the language it came in. And by the way, if you'd like to make a comparison of Arabic to English, we have a website. It's called ArabicInEnglish.com. So you can go there, you can begin to learn Arabic, the fundamental stages of Arabic, the basics to get into it. And I'm going to be speaking English while I'm teaching you this. It's on the website, ArabicInEnglish.com. But I want to caution you that when you get done, you still haven't really learned Arabic yet. And the Arabic language is so rich and so powerful that the comparison to the English is like you want to take a gallon of water and pour it into an 8-ounce cup. It's not going to go. Make sense?
Absolutely. Can you tell us in our audience, what are some of the proofs that verify the things that you've identified about the Quran and its uniqueness?
Actually, there's a lot about it. And I don't want to take the whole program just talking about this, but let me give you some of the things. For instance, the Quran claims it won't be changed. It hasn't been changed. The Quran claims within itself that it'll be preserved, and it is still here just as it was. The Quran tells us if you're in doubt about it, bring a book like it. Nobody's been able to do that. It also asks you to bring 10 chapters like it. Nobody could do that. Then finally it says bring 1 chapter. By the way, do you know what the smallest chapter of the Quran is?
Surah Al-Kawthar.
Right. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا آتيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. Look how short is this. It's tiny. It's the smallest surah in the Quran. Yet, for meaning and depth and understanding, you will never find anybody can match it in the Arabic language. Plus, consider this. It's one of the most recited of the Quran. Even little children know it. So if somebody wants to come with a book like it, let them go find 1.5 billion children who would like to memorize it. And they won't. And keeping this in mind, 88% of all the Muslims today are not Arab. And Arabic is not their language. 88% of 1.5 billion people are memorizing the Quran. Think about this. Out of all of the Muslims, every single Muslim has memorized some of the Quran in the Arabic language. In the original language as it came. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Now I'm going to stop. What's coming up next?
إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين.
And then?
اهدنا الصراط المستقيم.
صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم
غير المغضوب عليهم
ولا الضالين. Now, how could it be that somebody, by the way, you're from South Carolina, but originally by way of Washington, D.C. and Connecticut, yeah?
That's good.
And at one time, you were a candidate for priesthood. You were, yeah, admit it.
You're telling all my secrets.
Yeah, it's true. And you were also an altar boy. Yeah. So, you were Catholic, American. I was Protestant. And by the way, I used to be a music minister. I used to be the one putting the music out to the, set it to whatever was going to be the speech for the day, whatever the sermon was going to be, to make sure the music fit in along with that. I did some preaching of my own on the, from the, we call it mimbar, they call it the podium up there, you know. So we both are familiar with the religion from the Christian point of view. And yet, how many times did you ever try to memorize the whole Bible in the original language?
I don't think I tried once.
Me neither. And I never met anybody that was interested in trying to memorize the Bible in original language. Did you?
No.
I mean, to be honest, I never have met anybody who said, I would like to memorize the whole Bible in Hebrew or in Aramaic or something like that. I never heard anybody say that. But every single Muslim that I met, all of